Shalom, Yasharala. This your brother Dawada, coming back at you with this here truth again. First and foremost, I want to give all praise unto YAHAWAH, BAHASHIM, YAHAWASHI, BAHASHIM, Rakha Kodash. Double honor to the apostles and elders of great millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And citation and much love for y'all. I keep pushing this truth. It's sincerity on the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. So real quick, I'm not going to try to make this too long, but I just want to quickly read into this here article, which is kind of hyping on, the spirit that things are in right now, global chaos, okay, global recessions, global economic turndowns, and all these things coming to an end. All right. And like I was saying, in previous videos, all right, about measuring the time diligently, and also, you measure the time diligently based off of the prophecies. All right. And the prophecies are also speaking loud and clear right now. All right. Because like I said, man, this isn't something hidden. This isn't hidden news, something that you got to figure out and point, connect the dots with things like that, because it's obvious, just based off of the titles of some of these news articles, that it's out there and plain and clear. All right. So this is from RT. It says global economic faces awful high risk of recession in the next 12 to 18 months, warns Moody. There's an uncomfortable high chance that a recession could hit the global economy in the near future, according to Mark Zandi, chief economics of Moody Analytics. Policymakers may not be able to reverse that course, he said, in which we're pretty much in that situation already. This is basically what had happened in 2008. All right. But nevertheless, they just kept pumping in more and more money. It's like you have a credit card, you maxed out your credit card, and then you lost your job. There's no way of you paying this here back. Now, the bank just gave you they raised your credit limit, your debt limit, basically, so now you have, let's say your credit card had a max limit of $2,000, you maxed that out and you've lost your job. You can't make any payments. All right. And they're like, all right, well, instead of, have you maxed out at your limit, we'll raise that $2,000 to $2,500 so that you're not at your max. You can still kind of move around, but this is putting you further into debt, meaning you can't even pay for the original bill. You're not going to be able to pay for this bill. All right. So this is where we've been at since 2008. All right. And this is all being orchestrated by Esau to bring in his New World Order, ultimately to implement that RFID chip, which is going to be used, like the scripture say, no man is going to be able to buy or sell. All right. But nevertheless, and again, this isn't just a nationwide thing. This isn't like the recession of 2008 that hit America, which it actually trickled down and hit a lot of other places. All right. But nevertheless, this is more or less like a global economic recession, or really a depression. And it's not based off of, okay, America's economy is about to collapse, so now China ain't got nobody to sell to. No, it's not necessarily built off of that. Everybody's going through their struggles right now. And how much more where America's pretty much propping everybody up. So when America falls, everybody else is going to fall. You see what I'm saying? But nevertheless, it says, I think risks are awfully high. I think risks are awfully high that if something doesn't stick to the script, then we do have a recession. Zandi told CNBC. I say this also, even if we don't have a recession over the next 12 to 8 months, I think it's pretty clear that we're going to have a much weaker economy. And ultimately, and that's where we've been at again. They're just falsely propping this thing up. All right. So if you listen to the news, these, stock market is at the highest it's ever been. Yeah, because they have these government bonds that they're damn near at 0%. They're trying to push to a negative percentage. All right. Well, basically, if you, like the scripture uses usury, like if you take out a loan somewhere, normally you have to pay interest, right? Well, when you have a 0%, or negative percentage rate, not a 0%. Like if you have a 0% percentage rate on money that you borrow, let's say you borrow $100, right? And let's say it's 10%. Okay, now you're going to owe back $110, right? Because you got to pay that extra 10%. Now, if you borrow money at 0%, you borrow $100, you pay them back $100. Right now, if you go into the negative, all right, let's say negative 10%, right? Let's hypothetically, that's a big number, but you have a negative number. All right. Now you put, you go and borrow money. All right. And let's say you borrow $100, right? They only want you to pay you back $90, or in fact, you borrow. Yeah. Basically, you want to making like $10 off of that. They're basically paying you to borrow money. All right. But nevertheless, and not only that, raising the debt limit, the debt ceiling and all these different things, they're basically prolonging this economy because it's weak. They have to prop it up. Basically, it's basically being artificially inflated. They're just pumping money back in, selling a lot of these bonds and pushing it back into the stock market to where it just makes it look like the stock market is going up. How do I say? It's like skyrocketing. What is that going to turn the people to do? The people are going to want to go in and make some quick money because they're in a pinch. They're gonna go throw their real money into that, and then what? Basically, the elites are just taking their real money up out of there, you know. And this is what's causing a lot of people to lose money. A lot of people are now trying to invest. You see these little apps like Acorn and stuff like that, where they telling you, oh, anybody and everybody can invest. Like, yeah, they trying to scrape up the rest of your pennies. You know, they pulling theirs out by it, but they having you invest into this situation, you know, just so when things go bad, they don't lose no money. They just making profit off of it, all right? But ultimately, this is going to bring in that RFID chip, which is the mark of the beast, right? It says the economist said that there are many factors which could help avoid a slowdown in economic activities. These include U.S. President Donald Trump not escalating a trade war with China, the UK finding a resolution to Brexit, central banks continuing their monetary stimulus. All right, they just keep pumping money in. Again, you're not really doing it. You're going further and further than the debt. You know what I'm saying? You can't pay your bills, so you go get an AMSCOT, right? You can't pay your bills, you know, so you had to go get the AMSCOT. Now you went, you know, from the AMSCOT, you can't pay the AMSCOT back. Now you're going to go get money from the next little check cash in place or pay the advance. You know what I'm saying? And when you can't pay that bill, you're going to go borrow money from Twan up the block. When you can't pay that back, you see what I'm saying? You just borrowing more and more money. Eventually you have to pay this shit back, right? Your interest is being skyrocketed up. And ultimately, this is how we got to where we were now, because America was printing more and more money. What they say, kicking the can down the road to further generations, but eventually somebody would have to pay for it. And just like how they name these new children that's being born. I think there's even another name for them, because you had like the millennials or whatever, whatnot, Generation Z. I think there was something else that was right after that, but nevertheless, we ain't really going past no Generation Z, man. You know, I think they do have a name for one of these other ones, but we have to end all be all of everything, man. And this is just how it ends, man. You can't kick the can down no more. And ultimately, this was their plan to collapse the system, to bring in that RFID chip, you know, to start all the way over, right? It says, when asked about a chance of global economic recession, he said, I think high, uncomfortably high. Zondi warnings come as International Monetary Fund makes a downward revision of global growth. Now, the IMF is basically like, so if you know about the banking system, right, you have what they call central banks, right? Now, if you go, okay, put it this way. You go to the bank, right? Your bank is probably like Wells Fargo or Bank of America or one of these things. When you need money, you go to them, right? You get a loan from them. These banks also get loans and money from, they actually get loans and money from other banks, actually. I forgot what the kind of banks these are called, but you know, like Deutsche Bank, right? Deutsche Bank is like a big bank that invests into other banks and other companies so they can make, you know, bigger transactions. That, you know, how would I say, General Motors, they're not going to go to Bank of America to go get no goddamn loan. You know, they'll go to a way bigger bank that's giving them money. But however, when your regular banks, right, your JP Morgan, Chase, and all these different people, whenever they need money, all right, they actually go to, you know, a central bank, right? Now, we know of the central bank here in America is called the Federal Reserve, right? Now, if you look at, pull out a $1 bill on, I'm trying to think, let me see if I have one on me. If you look on the front of a $1 bill, it's like, hey, give me a second. If you look on the front of a $1 bill on the left-hand side, there is like a black circle, and damn it, it's a lot. On a $1 bill, the front side of it, on the left-hand side, there's a black seal with a letter in the middle. Like I'm looking at one now that has the letter D in there. All right, and if you read around it, it says the Federal Reserve Bank of Cleveland, Ohio, meaning that this here dollar was basically printed up in Cleveland, Ohio, right? You have a couple of these Federal Reserve banks here in America, right, that prints these money. Every basically dollar that you get comes from one of these printing presses that takes this here money and interject it into the society, or, you know, the nation here in Babylon, here in America, right? But nevertheless, there's something, you know, if you can understand that idea, all right, of central banking, all right, now there's something up above that, all right. Now you have, I believe they have, they might not even have these anymore, but it was called like the World Bank, which was basically one step above this. But on top of that, basically you have the IMF, all right, the International Monetary Fund, which is like a world central bank for all the other central banks, all right? It's basically like a pyramid. The IMF is pretty much at the top, okay? Now they lend down to basically the central banks, right? The central banks pretty much lend to the other banks, all right, which pretty much lend to you, all right? But these people are pretty much the people that are, how do I say, printing up the money and creating this so-called, the ebb and flow of currency around, you know, you know, if there's $1 trillion, these people had to print it. If they wanted to be $2 trillion, they could print it. You know what I'm saying? That's where they get it from. You know what I'm saying? Like, they the ones increase the amount of supply of actual money that we have through the really through a central bank, but above that, the IMF, right? Now they talking about, it says Zondi warnings come as the IMF makes a downward revision of global growth. So the people that's actually interjecting money and called, you know, with the interest rates and just actually turning over the whole global economics, they're saying basically, look, man, we're gonna have to slow down with printing money, loaning money. Things are slowing up because people really can't pay these things back. It says, and everybody's basically living on certain things. It's like, you know, you and your life or whatever, whatnot, you know, let's say you start off working at McDonald's, right? And you live according to the things that you can buy working at McDonald's, right? Now, you get a better job, whatever, whatnot. You start increasing your way of living. See what I'm saying? So maybe you go from being a roommate with somebody, now you got your own apartment, you know, because you got a way better job, your own car, certain bills, whatever, whatnot. Now, if you happen to lose, you know, you just stepped up a couple different levels. Now you got your own house. But now let's say you lose your job, but you got all these bills that you still have. All right. Eventually, you know, now you're working back at McDonald's, right? But you got a house, a mortgage, a car, you got some kids you got to take care of. It's like eventually, you know, you still got income coming in, but you can't afford to basically pay your bills. You see what I'm saying? And your income is not really increasing. So guess what? Yeah, you're paying bills, but you slowly but surely going into debt. You know, you're not making your full payments. You're making late payments, incurring other charges. So eventually you're going to wind up going bankrupt, you know? It says, it's the World Economic Outlook report. In its World Economic Outlook report, the IMF said that the global economic growing at the slowest pace since the financial crisis. The fund projected a global GDP growth of 3% this year, down from the July forecast of 3.2% as a sharp slowdown from just 2 years ago. It says the IMF blamed the slowdown on trade conflicts, Brexit uncertainty, and other geopolitical crises. It has said that there's an urgent need for leaders to de-escalate tensions, adding monetary policies cannot be the only game in town and should be coupled with fiscal support where fiscal space is available, where policy is not already too expendatory. And ultimately, again, like I said, you done moved out of living with somebody, right? And eating McDonald's every day. So now you can afford to actually go get you some real groceries and eating steak and shit every damn night, you know, because you got a better job. But now you done lost that job. You're working back at McDonald's. You can't keep going out and eating steak every night no more and working at McDonald's. You see what I'm saying? You can't afford to keep driving in that Benz. You see what I'm saying? Eventually, something's going to have to give, man. All right. And that's, pretty much what they're forecasting, right? Says Zandi agreed that, because ultimately you got less people working, less money going back into the system. They're sucking out more money than what people are actually generating to put back into the system, right? That's why you also see a lot of these commercials of all this lending, new credit scores, all kind of things like that, because they're trying to get people to start borrowing money and spending money, because when all money is lent out at this is fractional reserve bank, and it's all lent out at a percentage. So these banks can lend up to 10 times the amount of money that they have in reserves. So if they have $1, meaning that they can write a loan for $10, even though they only have $1 to secure that. They'll put digitally $10 in your account when they only have $1 to give you a loan with. So in return, and then they're gonna charge you interest on that. So they loaned you $1, and in return they make $12. You see what I'm saying? But nevertheless, all this here money is based off of debt. It says Zandi agreed that the government should increase spending to support the economy. Again, that is what's causing it to go further and further into debt. Not just the fact that they spending money. No, but it's like, you get the concept, the more money you spend, the broker you're going to be, right? But imagine now you're trying to spend more and more money, but every time you got to go spend money, you got to go borrow money from AMSCOT to go spend it, and that's going to cost you even more money. So you go and borrow, like, let's say, hypothetically, $100, and they charge you $125, right? And you do this over and over again. Every time you want to spend $100, it's going to cost you an extra $25. So eventually, you're going to wind up going so far into debt that you can't pay the money back. All right. It says Zandi agreed that the government should increase spending to support the economy. Noting, however, again, that's why, like, when you look at AMSCOT, this is how they make their money. They loan you $100, but you got to pay them $125 back, right? So this is why they want you to keep spending, borrowing, so on and so forth, so you can generate money for them. All right, to further suck this whole system dry, So I agree the government should increase spending to support the economy, noting, however, that many major economies would not go down that route, because ultimately they realize, like, yo, I'm so far into debt. If I just, keep borrowing money, eventually they're gonna start garnishing my wages. Eventually they're gonna start repossessing my property and stuff. So I can't afford to keep borrowing no more money, man. I'm too far in the hole. That's the sane mind thinking, right? Let me just grab a couple scriptures real quick. Like I said, I'm not gonna make this here long, but ultimately this is all prophesied in the scriptures about basically Babylon economy coming to an end. All right, this is Ecclesiastes chapter 12, and I'm gonna read 1 through 4. It says, "Remember now thy Creator in the days of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them." All right. So basically, you seek the Lord early while he may be found. Because why? You don't, you don't want to use, especially your youth time, the time or time now, while you have a chance now. All right. To try to seek, you don't want to lose out on that time while you have the time to seek the Lord and try to push it off and wait. A lot of our people do that and say, oh, when I get a little older, I'm going to wind up going to church, give my life over. No, bro, you want to. You don't want to be like those 5 unwise virgins, that waited till the last minute to get their oil. It says, "Remember now thy Creator in the day of thy youth, while the evil days come not, nor the years draw nigh, when thou shalt say, I have no pleasure in them." All right. So you out here having all this here fun and everything, but you're not even thinking about when these calamities are coming in the Lord. You need to seek the Lord now while you still have the liberty to do so, instead of despising the Lord's laws, while you still have this here liberty. All right. It says, "While the sun or the light or the moon or the stars be not darkened, or the clouds return after the rain, and the days when the keepers of the house shall tremble. All right. And this is what you're hearing right now here in Babylon. A lot of these top economic advisors, a lot of these so-called smart Edomites, when it come down to economics and things like this is what they all forecasting. Global recession. Economic collapse here in America. This is what all these how do I say, the elites when it comes to banking and finance. Okay, this is what all they're saying about these things. All right, it's not just so-called conspiracy theories, people who don't really know nothing about these type of things just over here screaming that the sky is falling. No, these are the top people that deal with economics, like that dude Peter Schiff. But nevertheless, it says verse 3, "In the days when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, the grinders cease because they are few, and they that look out the window are darkened, and the doors shall be shut in the streets, and the sound of grinding is low." All right. "And he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low." So ultimately, this is going into what? How do I put this? An economic slowdown, but more or less like businesses shutting down, because why? They can't afford to stay in business. And you seeing this now, man. Before the Christmas season come up, a lot of different department stores are shutting down, going out of business. A lot of stores are closing down, how do they say, branches or locations and things like this, man. All right, they're not really telling you on the normal news or whatever, whatnot. They telling you the stock market is great, but really, because they're trying to get people sucked into this. There's another scam out here with the new cars, the finance. I forgot what they call it, the yo-yo financing or something like that. They get you at a low rate, and then they just skyrocket it up, and then eventually the people wind up losing out on their car, can't make the payments, and so on and so forth. But nevertheless, this is what's going on. All right, because why? People really don't have the money right now. That's why a lot of people are staying with their families and things like that, because they don't have the money to go out and how do I say, make a sustainable living, all right, in this here economy. All right. So it says, "In the days when the keepers of the house shall tremble, and the strong men shall bow themselves, and the grinders cease because they are few." You got less work, high unemployment. You got so many people being Uber drivers, Lyft drivers. People will tell you there's more people got more jobs now. Yeah, but they all driving Lyft and Uber. How many people was actually, doctors beforehand, provided for their family with that kind of income, that's now driving Uber right now? You pretty much don't have a job, man. You know what I'm saying? You just prolonging your death, man. All right. It says, verse 4, "And the doors shall be shut in the streets when the sound of the grinding is low, and he shall rise up at the voice of the bird, and all the daughters of music shall be brought low." And it's just a side note, man. Look at the conditions of our music right now. Everything's all fucked up, man. They sad in the morning, man. Everybody talking about getting bags, getting money. You know what I'm saying? Because why? There's not an abundance of that, man. All right, people aren't really living as well as they so-called portraying it. This is why everybody's so-called flaunting this here. Got to get the money tip, because everybody is really hurting in the pockets, man. Right? Real quick, let me go to I just spoke about this usury situation. This is Isaiah 24. I'm gonna actually read from the top. It says, "Behold, Yahweh maketh the earth empty, and maketh it waste, and turneth it upside down, and scattereth abroad the inhabitants thereof." This is ultimately what the Most High is preparing the earth for, is for the ultimate judgment day, and the cleansing and the purging of this here planet, man, for all its wickedness and all the evil devices that are therein. All right, and it says, "And it shall be as with the people All right, so the Most High is about to make empty with all these situations, and it shall be as with the people, so with the priest, as with the servant, so with his master, as with the maid, so with her mistress, as with the buyer, so with the seller, as with the lender, so with the borrower, as with the taker of usury, so with the giver of usury to him. All right, now why is all these things? Why does the Lord have to make a complete end to all these things? Because it's fully corrupted now. All right, it's all the way to the full max, man. You got people giving out usury to a point that they can't really afford to pay it back, man. You got all these different types of loans going out and all the types of interest rates where you'll never pay it off and pay it back, man. Go to one of those buy here, pay here's and go get a car from out there, man. They be like $99 down, $99 a month. The car costs you $10,000. You know what I'm saying? Or $5,000, but you've been paying this car for the last 15 years. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, yo, you'll never pay off the car because the interest is so high on it. Eventually the car will break down, lose its value, or you'll just fall behind on payments and they'll resell it, man. All right. So ultimately, everything is just at the end, man. All right. You so far stretched out that you can't, it's like blowing up a balloon. You done blew the balloon up so full that you can't put no more air inside that balloon. It's now about to pop, man. Let me just read down to 5. It says, the land shall be utterly emptied and utterly spoiled, for Yahweh have spoken it. The earth mourneth and fadeth away. The world languish and fadeth away. The haughty people of the earth do languish. The earth is also defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws and changed the ordinance and broken the everlasting covenants. All right. So look, going into how we supposed to get paid. You're supposed to get paid before the sun go down for the day of that you're working on, So if I went to work today, I was supposed to get a paycheck for today before the sun go down, You ain't supposed to be charging and lending out with usury, all right, which is interest rates, all right. And so what's going on right now? First of all, they got people high interest rates, a high cost of living, low incomes, all right, and then they even further stretching it by making you work 2 weeks before you get a paycheck, so they're taxing you even higher. And, you're stretching your money out a little bit further, man. So you're actually ultimately getting less money, man. All right. Let me go back to 5 again. It says, the earth also is defiled under the inhabitants thereof, because they have transgressed the laws and changed the ordinance and broken the everlasting covenants. Because the Most High told you how to plant certain things, so everything would be in a, how do I say, perpetual situation, And even with certain things like, let's just say for the year of Jubilee, right? Or not even the year of Jubilee, right? Just the year where you're supposed to give your land a Sabbath. You plow for 6 years and you let it rest on the 7th, right? Well, you would be in, how do I say? One of the reasons you would do that is so that the soil would be replenished of its vitamins and its nutrients, right? But what do they do here? They constantly keep farming so that there's nothing left inside the food. Now what do they have to do? Well, they have to create fake food, GMOs, to give it, because they not, they didn't they didn't milk the damn cow dry, as a metaphor to say, basically, but I just kept farming on the same land over and over again, not giving it its Sabbath, But so now you basically didn't use it up. You just stretched it all the way through. Now you got to make synthetic foods, man. Same with everything else, man. You got all these loans out here for people, screwed up their credit in the 2008 collapse. Now you got to come up with new credit schemes, new pyramid schemes to suck people into to keep generating money, right? But this is why the Lord has to destroy all of this, man. Let me let me read 10 and 11. It says, the city of confusion, all right? That's what Babylon means, all right? Babel means confused. Lan is basically the land of confusion. The city of confusion is broken down, and that's what's going on to America right now. It's slowly decaying. We're rapidly decaying. Every house is shut up. Multiple things. A lot of these houses are actually being boarded up, no trespassing. But then also, you're not really in a, how do I say, the state of being in joy and mirth or whatever. Inviting people over, having parties or whatever, whatnot. More people are staying home and just trying to get by on whatever they can get by on. They're not really going out doing a lot of different things because they can't afford it. It says, the city of confusion is broken down. Every house is shut up that no man may come in. There's a crying for wine in the street. All joy is darkened. The mirth of the land is gone. All right. The city is left desolation and the gate is smitten with destruction. All right. And this is pretty much what's slowly but surely happening here in America, man. Not just America, but globally. You got places like Skid Row where the homeless population is skyrocketing. All right. They're getting rid of trailer parks and stuff like that, just making it more and more expensive for people to live in. Or to live. They building up these expensive condos and all these new places, but people can't afford to live in these things, man. But they ultimately preparing for this here market beast system. Let me grab one more real quick. You know, and this is ultimately what this economic collapse is going to turn to. I just did a video the other day talking about basically the world was on fire with all these different protests, but nevertheless, these things are coming to the land of Babylon as well too. And what's going to spark it? Basically, an economic downturn. All right. It says, "Woe to the world and them that dwell therein, for the sword and their destruction draweth nigh, and one people shall stand up and fight against another with swords in their hands. All right, for there shall be sedition among men and invading one another, and they shall not regard their kings nor their princes, and the course of their action shall stand in their power. And a man shall desire to go into a city and shall not be able, for because of the pride of the cities, for because of their pride, the cities shall be troubled, and the houses shall be destroyed, and man shall be afraid. And a man shall have no pity upon his neighbor, but shall destroy their houses with the sword and spoil their goods because of a lack of bread and for great tribulation." So what's being, pretty much described here is like what? You have an economic collapse, all right, for a lack of bread because they can't basically can't afford regular food. You got chaos running around where, you have people fighting against one another, sedition amongst men, neighbors fighting with one another and invading their houses, kicking in the doors and taking all their stuff because why? Just for the lack of bread, man. Lack of food is getting too expensive out there, man. And ultimately, this is what you're going to see globally, which is going to cause a global chaos, which we already in now, which is all pointing to what? Okay, problem, reaction, solution. We got that, let me grab it because I'm, This is Revelation 13 and 16 through 18. "And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand or in their forehead, and that no man might buy or sell, save he that have the mark, or the name of the beast, or the number of his name. Here is wisdom. Let him that have understanding count the number of the beast, for it is the number of a man, and his number is 666. Now, in verse 16 and 17, talking about he's going to cause everybody to get this here mark. Everybody's going to wind up having to take it. And if you don't have it, you ain't going to be able to buy or sell unless you have this here mark. So you're going to basically be excluded from this here society. But if they're talking about you got to buy and sell with this here mark, which we know is the RFID chip, all right, we're not using that right now to buy and sell. I mean, you do have a chip on your card, but it's not inside of you. You can still use cash right now, right? So how do we go from having cash and debit cards now to having this here RFID chip as, the way of purchasing things, all right? Well, as you see now, you have this global economic collapse on the verge, the economic collapse in America, all right? And they're going to just be like, you know what, we can just transfer, you can start with a clean slate, just to go ahead and take this here chip, man. Problem, reaction, solution, man. This is how they're going to get everybody to get onto this here thing, because why? They're going to already be, invading one another and going in each other's homes just for some damn food and killing one another, not listening to the government. But ultimately, when the so-called savior government come in, would wait for everybody to eat by giving this here microchip, they're going to all bow down and worship their God, which is this here society, man. But what? For us, we ain't supposed to take that RFID chip, which is the mark of the beast, man. All right, but ultimately, I just wanted to bring this here up because, this is just the spirit that things is going in right now, economic turmoil. You also have rioting and protesting, calamities, perplexities going on around the whole world right now. So ultimately, these signs are speaking, man, loud and clear, man, loud and clear. All right. This is 2 Ezra chapter 9, verse 1. He answered me then and said, "Measure thou the time diligently in itself, and when thou seest part of the signs which I have told thee before, then thou shalt understand in the very same time, whereas the highest will begin to visit the world which he made. Therefore, when thou shalt be seen earthquakes and uproars of the people in the world, thou shalt well understand that the Most High spake of those things from the days that were before thee, even from the beginning. For like all that is made in the world hath the beginning and an end, and the end is manifest. Even so also of the highest have plain beginnings and wonders and powerful works and ending and effects and signs." And that's what you're seeing going on right now. We're able to measure the time diligently based off of these here prophecies, which the Lord told us about. All right. And now they all speaking loud and clear. All right. And they say that they all have plain beginnings and endings as well, too. The end is manifest. Real quick, Habakkuk 2 and 3. It says, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time." The vision is what? These prophecies. All right. And this is the time that it's appointed for. It says, "For the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it shall speak." That's where we at now. It's clearly speaking. It's not a mystery no more. It's on your headline news now. Babylon is falling. That's mainstream media now. It says, but at the end it shall speak and not lie. Though it tarry, wait for it, because it shall surely come and it will not tarry. We see in Babylon falling already as we speak now. Some people may not be able to see it or understand it or believe it, but look, it ain't tarrying. It's actually approaching this decline rapidly right now at this here point in time. All right, but if you had those spiritual eyes to be able to see these things, all right, then it'd be clear as day to understand these things. But you know, the spirit of Yahawashi is the spirit of prophecy. All right, and this is how we're able to measure measure the times diligently by understanding these here prophecies. All right, so I'm gonna go ahead and close out with that. Lord willing, this here lesson was edifying unto the elect. Till next time, I say, call halal Yahawah, Bahashim, Yahawashi, Bahashim, Rakak Wadash. Double honors to the apostles and elders of Great Millstone that taught us this truth and that rule well. And salutation, much love for you, Ak, and pushing this truth and sincerity in the four corners of the earth and enduring afflictions to feed and edify the elect. Till next time, I say, stay strong and shalom.